We celebrate Jefferson, Franklin, and Adams. But the real cost of freedom was paid by men you've probably never heard of. This story flips the script on how America was built. Today, when people think of the Founding Fathers, they think of the men I just mentioned. But in reality, there were 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence. And out of these 56 men, only 5 are considerably well known. These men risked their freedom, their family, and their lives in order to sign this world-changing document. Thankfully, their efforts have given freedom to millions of people over the course of history. These men risked and lost much due to the Revolutionary War, and yet their names are barely even remembered. Today, we will uncover 3 Founding Fathers' legacies, but this one signer's story is especially weird because his name is worth more than you'd think. Before we get started though, we're going to be trying to hit 100 subscribers before September, so if you could hit that subscribe button, that would be a massive help to the cause. Button Gwinnett was an unsuccessful businessman, and after years of failed business ventures, he decided to dabble in politics. He became a true patriot in 1775 at the age of 40. He was a man with both allies and rivals. He was elected to the Continental Congress as one of Georgia's delegates in 1776. He signed the Declaration of Independence, but his troubles were just beginning. Upon returning home, Gwinnett was elected to Georgia's Assembly, and while in office, he helped write the original draft for Georgia's Constitution in 1777. He was then elected to be Speaker of the Legislature and convinced Georgia's politicians to attempt to invade Florida. Attempt is the key word here, because the invasion failed and it left Gwinnett with the blame. However, Gwinnett was quick to blame the man leading the operation, his worst rival, Lachlan McIntosh, who returned the blame. There was a point in the middle of May 1777 where both men decided that a duel was appropriate for the situation. The duel was on May 16, 1777. Both men were wounded, but only Gwinnett's proved fatal. He died 3 days later on May 19th. Button Gwinnett's signature is more sought after than George Washington's. Before Gwinnett was elected to the Continental Congress, he was an obscure person. And due to the fact that his death took place so quickly after the signing of the Declaration, there are very few copies left of his signature. In 2010, one of his signatures was sold for $722,500. But for those who are seeking to have an entire collection of Founding Fathers autographs, the price is worth it. And while Gwinnett's legacy was rare, another signer left behind no trace. In 1776, Thomas Lynch Jr. became the company commander for the 1st South Carolina Regiment. While campaigning for troops in the South Carolina region, he became ill. He never fully recovered to what his health had been prior to the illness. But during this time, Lynch Jr.'s father had had a stroke. Thomas Lynch Sr. had been elected to the Continental Congress, but after his stroke, he stepped down. Thomas Lynch Jr., however, was elected to replace his father. Lynch Jr. was the second youngest delegate at the age of 27. During the return trip to South Carolina, Lynch's father had finished his journey and died in December of 1776 in Annapolis, Maryland. Lynch Jr. had soon returned to his plantation with his ever-worsening fever. His health continued to deteriorate over the next 2 years when doctors recommended that he and his wife Elizabeth take a trip to Europe. The idea was to hope that the change of scenery would help improve Lynch's health. In 1779, the husband and wife boarded a ship sailing to France, but they never made it. To this day, no one knows what happened to the ship or Thomas Lynch, but the assumption is that they were both lost to the treacherous Atlantic. Other Founding Fathers didn't vanish. Rather, they were buried underneath the very war that they helped start. Thomas Nelson Jr. was from an elite family from Virginia, and a political career was an easy choice as a career path. In 1761, he was elected into Virginia's House of Burgesses. He served there for 14 years. Following the disassembly of the House of Burgesses, he was elected to the Continental Congress. After the Revolutionary War began, he served as both Brigadier General in the Lower Virginia Militia and governor. Nelson gets his claim to fame from an American legend. It is said that during the Battle of Yorktown, that British troops were staged up in Nelson's own home. He told George Washington to fire on the house. He even offered money to the first person to hit it with a cannonball. The reason that this story is false is that the house is still standing today. Technically speaking, it could have been rebuilt, but Nelson faced severe financial problems after the war. He had helped raise money for the Continental Army and was never repaid, at least not fully. In 1781, he stepped down as governor of Virginia due to health issues. But his health continued to decline over the following 8 years until he died in 1789 at the age of 50. So the question stands, why do we only hear about guys like Jefferson or Franklin? What happened to the others? Honestly, they just weren't the heroes of the story. Who's cooler? A guy who died in a petty duel, or a man who went on to become the President of the United States? The reality is that we as humans like stories that are black and white. The Revolutionary War was not black and white, as clearly seen as these men. The real revolution was bigger than just a few men. It was built by many who paid in full and were erased. And that is why it is now on our shoulders to make sure that their memories are not fully forgotten in the sands of history and time. If this story challenged what you thought you knew, just wait until you hear about America's first lost colony. What really happened to Roanoke and how we had the answer all along is up next.